Welcome to our channel. Today, we dive into the fascinating world of medieval knights and their legendary code of honor. These warriors have shaped much of European history and culture, leaving behind stories of bravery, loyalty, and chivalry. So, let's explore who they were, what the code of honor meant, and how it influenced their lives and battles. Knights were mounted warriors of the Middle Ages, roughly between the 9th and 15th centuries. They were usually nobles or sons of noble families trained from a young age in combat, horsemanship, and the art of warfare. Knights were not only fighters, but also protectors of the weak, upholders of justice, and servants of their lords. Becoming a knight was not something achieved overnight. It was a lifelong journey of discipline, loyalty, and courage. Boys of noble birth usually began this path around the age of 7, when they were sent away from home to serve as pages in another noble household. As pages, they learned courtly manners, reading, writing, religion, and the basics of fighting with wooden swords and small shields. By their teenage years, these boys advanced to the rank of squire. A squire's life was far more demanding. They served directly under a knight, caring for his horse, maintaining his armor, and accompanying him into battle. This stage gave them first-hand experience of warfare, strategy, and bravery under pressure. Only after years of loyal service and proving themselves in combat could a squire hope to be elevated to knighthood. The transformation was marked by a grand ceremony called the dubbing, where the young warrior knelt before his lord or king and received the symbolic touch of a sword on his shoulders. In that moment, he pledged to uphold the chivalric code and dedicate his life to honor, duty, and service. The word chivalry comes from the Old French word chevalerie, meaning horse soldiery. It evolved into a moral and social code that knights were expected to follow. The code of honor included virtues like bravery, loyalty to one's lord and country, protection of the helpless, honesty, and courtesy, especially towards women. Knights were the elite warriors of the medieval battlefield, instantly recognizable by their heavily armored appearance and mounted war horses. They fought with a variety of weapons, including swords, lances, maces, and battle axes, each suited for different types of combat. Knights did not just serve in local conflicts, they were central figures in major wars and crusades, leading charges, defending castles, and inspiring their troops. On the battlefield, their presence alone could change the course of a fight, as both fear and admiration followed these legendary warriors wherever they rode. Life as a knight wasn't only about battles and wars. Knights also displayed their skill, courage, and showmanship in tournaments and jousting competitions. These events were a mixture of sport, training, and grand entertainment for the nobility, drawing huge crowds who came to watch their favorite knights compete. Among all the tournament events, jousting was the most thrilling and dangerous. Two knights would charge at each other on horseback, each armed with a long lance, aiming to unseat their opponent. Jousting required not only strength and precision, but also speed, balance, and nerves of steel. Victories in these competitions brought fame, honor, and sometimes valuable prizes, while defeats were a humbling reminder of the risks these warriors faced, even outside the battlefield. Religion played a central role in the life of medieval knights. Many knights took religious vows and considered their duties as part of a holy mission. This connection between faith and warfare became especially significant during the Crusades, the series of military campaigns aimed at reclaiming the Holy Land. For knights, fighting wasn't just about loyalty to a lord or a kingdom. It was also a spiritual obligation. They often carried crosses on their armor, participated in prayers before battles, and believed that their bravery and sacrifice were acts of service to God. The intertwining of faith and combat added a sense of higher purpose to their dangerous lives, inspiring both devotion and fear among those around them. Religion also shaped the moral and ethical expectations of knights. Their actions in war were often justified by religious principles, reinforcing ideals of honor, protection of the innocent, and righteous conduct. further intertwining the chivalric code with spiritual duty. A knight's identity was defined not only by courage or skill, but also by the armor and weapons they carried. Armor evolved over the centuries, starting with chainmail, flexible metal rings that protected against swords and arrows, and eventually developing into full plate armor, a near-complete metal suit weighing up to 60 pounds. Helmets, gauntlets, and greaves completed the protection, allowing knights to fight while remaining relatively safe from most weapons of the time. Knights wielded a variety of weapons depending on the battle or tournament. Swords were the most iconic, often beautifully decorated and tailored to the knight. Lances were used for charging enemies on horseback, especially in jousting, while maces, axes, and warhammers were effective against heavily armored foes. Shields, often emblazoned with a knight's coat of arms, were both defensive tools and symbols of identity. Throughout history, a few knights stood out not just for their skill in battle, but for their extraordinary deeds and legendary reputations. William Marshall, 1146 to 1219, often called the greatest knight of the Middle Ages, Marshall served 4 English kings and fought in countless battles. Once, during a tournament, he reportedly fought for 3 consecutive days, barely sleeping, and emerged victorious against all challengers. El Cid, Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, 1043-1099, a Spanish knight and warlord, El Cid became a symbol of honor and military genius. One famous story tells how he rode into battle with only a few men against a much larger enemy force and still managed to achieve a decisive victory through cunning strategy. Joan of Arc, 1412-1431. Though technically not a knight in the traditional sense, Joan led French armies in armor and inspired soldiers with unmatched courage. In one legendary moment, she personally led a charge that broke the siege of Orleans, changing the course of the 100 Years' War. By the late Middle Ages, the traditional knight began to lose his dominance on the battlefield. The rise of new military technologies such as gunpowder, firearms, and the longbow made heavy armor less effective and changed the way wars were fought. Professional armies began to replace the feudal levies that knights once led, and new strategies and formations reduced the impact of individual mounted warriors. The age of chivalric warfare, with knights charging into battle on horseback, gradually gave way to more organized, ranged, and large-scale combat. Medieval knights were far more than mere warriors. They were the living embodiment of a complex social and moral system that influenced Europe for centuries. From their rigorous training and battlefield valor to their adherence to the code of chivalry, knights represented courage, loyalty, and honor in every aspect of life. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through the world of knights, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to explore more fascinating history content.